Hello everyone and welcome back to the Teleprompter series, the third and penultimate episode of our series. Now, what good is a teleprompter if our talent, in this case regrettably that's me, can't see it? We need some way to get the output of the teleprompter to our talent, and that's what this video is all about. There are two main ways that we can output the teleprompter in Central Control. One being with a full screen graphics card, the other using NDI. We're going to start by taking a look at the full screen output, but before we do, it's important to understand some of the parameters in the teleprompter module that we initially looked over in our first episode. So I'm going to take a look at our project. Once again, you'll see I've got this set up. Same one as before. The first one we want to look at is the resolution. And if you're not seeing these parameters, just make sure you've got the teleprompter selected. Now, we're going to want this to be as close to the resolution as the display that we're showing the prompter on, but it might be desirable to use a lower resolution to save bandwidth or to get better performance on older hardware. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to set it to 1920 by 1080, which is also the resolution of the monitor that I'm using here for my tutorial. The next parameter we need to look at is the frame rate. Now, the teleprompter, as you'll see, has a range of frame rates, but it also has this VSync option. When you're using a teleprompter, you want the output to be as smooth as possible. And to that end, when outputting full screen, the VSync option will provide the smoothest frame rate by synchronizing the rendering of the prompter to the refresh rate of the display. For NDI, it's best to use one of the other predefined frame rate options, preferably 60 frames a second, but lower frame rates are available. Again, maybe you want to save bandwidth or system resources. Then the other thing we have is the full screen display parameter. It lists the displays by number. To know which one you need, you're going to want to go into, if you don't know already, you can just go into the Windows display settings. And if you click identify, you'll see that it actually shows me 1, 2 on the displays, and that correlates to the numbers we saw in the drop down in Central Control. So I'm going to click display 2, and that is my monitor on my desktop here. By the way, these are superb. Initially bought it for our IBC demo. It's one wire USB-C that does the display, the touchscreen, the power, even audio. Speakers are trash, but nonetheless, touchscreen, 10 point, whatever. It's great. Anyway, not to get sidetracked. Now we've set that up, all we need to do is I can enable the teleprompter in Central Control like so, and you'll see that it is now showing full screen on our display here. And I can adjust the size. It's the same output, it's just this on here. Next up, let's take a look at NDI. NDI is a great way for us to output the prompter because it gives us so many options. For example, right now, as I shoot this video, I'm using the Sienna NDI monitor app on my iPad. This is ideal because there are so many iPad-based prompter kits available at a relatively low cost, and you just download the Sienna app, put it on the iPad, and I'm now using my iPad as a display for the prompter. Now, this also allows you to send the output of the prompter to a production system like vMix, and even send it to remote talent using, say, a vMix call. So let's take a look at how we set that up in Central Control. Going back to my desktop. So my plan is to, as I'm kind of mentioned, is let's say I'm using the Sienna monitor app and an iPad is a 4:3 display. So to closely try and match that, we're going to change the resolution down to 1024 by 768, which is a 4:3 resolution. You'll notice I did just disable the teleprompter because these parameters are actually locked when the prompter is enabled. And I'm going to change the frame rate from VSync to 60 for the reasons we mentioned earlier in the video. Now I need to somehow associate that to an NDI output. As we spoke about earlier in the series, Central Control is an extremely modular application. So to add an NDI output, I need to add that to my project. If you don't remember, all we need to do is click Add Device. I'm going to scroll down to NDI and NDI output. Now, this name here is going to actually become relevant in a second, because this is what the NDI stream on the network will end up being called. So I'm going to call this Teleprompter output. Click OK. You can ignore all of these parameters because in the case of the teleprompter, the resolution and the frame rate, the text rendering, that's all determined by the prompter itself, not the NDI output module. And I'm going to enable it. Now we need some way to associate the output of the prompter with this NDI sender module. And doing that is exactly kind of like mapping controls in Central Control. In fact, it is. So I'm going to click on the controls button for the teleprompter module because that's our source. And you'll see it has one control, as it were, and that is called prompter output. And then all I must do is come to the teleprompter output module that we created and use it as our target and click the plus button to assign it to that control. Now I can enable the prompter, and I've actually left the full screen output on, so I've got it going to two places. This could be ideal. Maybe you want a full screen output to send it to a multi-viewer at the same time that it's going NDI to the talent. And now if I click play, I can open up my studio monitor. And I will find MSI is my machine. And you'll see Central Control Teleprompter output. And there is the output of our teleprompter as an NDI source. Now, the one thing that we need to consider here is that when we're using a teleprompter, we're probably seeing it, well, the talent is, via some sort of mirror. That's what a teleprompter is. It's essentially a two-way glass mirror with a display pointing at it, and then the talent's looking straight down the barrel of the camera. But because it's a mirror, it's going to mirror the text, and unless your talent is talented like me and can read back to front text, we're going to need to correct that for them. So to do that, Central Control makes it incredibly, incredibly easy. If we go to the teleprompter module, there is two options here. They are horizontal output flip and output vertical flip. If I check horizontal, flips it horizontally, sorry. You will note that the main interface is still the right way round, so the operator doesn't now need to learn how to read backwards. Then the other option is vertical flip, and both can be used at the same time. So whatever combination of flipping you need, it's there. And that will do it for our second episode of the Teleprompter tutorial series. Sorry, third episode. I'm doing this in one take, so I'm not going to go and do that again. Join us next time where we talk all about automation and how you can use the teleprompter to automate your production. See you next week.